you're starting a brand and you don't want to print everything and hope for the best, these mock-ups allow you to get a design concept, drag and drop it, all the print effects are all built in, and it just makes life so much easier for brands that want to test the water rather than just throwing all the budget on a hope.
Why don't you just start by telling myself and the listeners a bit about who you are and what you do?
So I'm James. I'm the director of Studio Innate, which is a streetwear-inspired brand. We sell things from mock-ups, fonts, graphic packs that are there to help brands, like streetwear brands starting up. And we've recently gone down the rabbit hole of printing in-house as well, like our own merchandise. So it's a little bit of a loaded beast, but essentially, it all boils down to just being in that streetwear niche, really.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so can you maybe unpack that a bit more? Go into some of the details. What's brought you up to this point, and how has your business evolved, and what does it look like, particularly for the streetwear side of things?
So essentially, back in the day, so this all really started a couple of years back. It was just before the COVID thing kicked off, and I'd set myself like a little challenge of posting on Instagram daily when you could post pictures and it would and people would actually see them rather than it all having to be reels now. So that was fun, and that was that was a challenge. I knew it would be a challenge, like posting every single day, trying to think of something every single day, and I started. I got quite bored of it quite quickly. I started off doing posters, and then I really got bored of that, and it became apparent that I had to do something else because I just wouldn't be able to do a whole year of that. So I started doing some clothing stuff as well. So instead of doing posters, I started designing onto t-shirts and like jackets and stuff like that, and absolutely loved it. It was just so much more me. I've always been massively into like clothing, and like there's always I get quite pissed off. There's always most of the time there's the dilemma that the garment's really nice, but the print is shit, or the design's shit, or vice versa. It's like a really nice design, but it's a junk garment. So
that's your designer's mind there, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think it's important to just do your very best to get both right, both as good as they possibly can be. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so and I just enjoyed the process of designing that because I'm a designer. I'm from like graphic design background. I hadn't necessarily been designing clothes for a career. That was my own sort of passion. So I was doing something that I'd always wanted to do rather than something that I'm paid to do, essentially. So it was just something that I was just following a passion, really. And designing on clothes and just really enjoying it. And some of the feedback was really nice as well. And it's just like people saying, "Oh, this is great. Can I buy it?" I was like, "What?" And it's more of like Instagram for me back then was more of like a sketchbook or like a notepad. I'm just like throwing stuff out on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And the fact that people even wanted to buy it or liked it, I was very, very humbled by. So, so that was like an early start of it, really playing around with that.
Okay. Yeah. So this is like, COVID has just started at this point, and you're posting.
Nearly. This is just a few months before, so it's
right.
The virus is out there. The virus is out there floating around with mayhem, but it hadn't been. We haven't been in lockdown or anything yet. That was like a few months back. So this was basically I started this whole post every day on New Year's Day. That was like the start of a New Year thing. So I was like, right, I'm going to do that, and that's 2020. And then COVID came creeping around the corner, and it was such a blessing that I had started this. It's because all my clients, because I had my own, I still do the service-based work, but I don't have to do so much anymore. I can be a little bit more selective.
Sure.
And we can get into that in a minute. But at the time, I had a little design agency that I was building, doing branding and websites and stuff like that. And all my clients phoned up literally within like 3 days and just all either cancelled their projects that they had with me, or put it all on ice, or just wanted money back because they knew that they needed to retain their funds, if they were going to be able to feed their families as well as me. So I was completely hung out to dry. But there were certain things in place, like government grants and stuff for small businesses that I was able to use, which was good. It kept it buoyant, but that was going to run out pretty soon. It was, because they weren't that generous. From there, the only thing that I had to really focus on was that posting every day, that everyday post thing. And that really did keep me going creatively. And I just thought, this is actually something that I'm, it was like I was actually getting quite bored in a way of doing like the service-based work, like branding and websites and stuff. It was fine, but it wasn't my true passion. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't my true passion. It was just a service that I knew small businesses need, like websites and branding. They need that. But in terms of the merch side, I never really kind of pursued that because I was always targeting local companies. So it was very refreshing to dive into that.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. And your service-based work, was that just for like small businesses in general, or did you do some things with clothing brands at the time as well then?
No, I would have loved to, but I was the only way I was really, because bear in mind, when I started this posting every day on Instagram, I had about 250 followers. So I was like just a local guy in my town, just like designing stuff and working for freelance and stuff, working for my own clients, just grinding it out really. And, when, and you had to be a little bit more, you have to take the jobs that come in really. So some jobs come in, you don't really think it's you. It's a little bit too corporate, but you have to do it because it's going to be a good paid job. So that was the reason why I didn't necessarily love what I was doing at that time, because it was like corporate stuff and a bit sludgy and it's not really my thing, but I would do it. And then I started working with lifestyle brands a bit more and trying to appeal to those, but then they didn't have like the budgets and stuff. So it was just, it was a bit of a tricky one, but it was
okay. Interesting. And just for reference for listeners. So you've, this is in COVID or what started out before COVID, starting out with, you said 250 followers and now looking at 100,000 followers you've grown that to in just 2 years or so.
Yeah.
Wow.
And and I think so when I did the first year of posting every day, I think I got that up to about 25,000 during that first year. Yeah. Then the second year, I was just like, right, I'm going to take my foot off the gas a little bit. I've been hammering this every day. I don't really feel like I need to just post something every day. I don't have that breathing down my neck anymore. I've earned a little bit of a rest. So I had like some time off.
Absolutely.
But because I'd found, quite a lot of enjoyment from that, it made sense to just keep going with it. So I didn't post every day, but I posted regularly still. And started building the store up. So during that COVID lockdown, the first one, this is how a lot of this stuff started really. So during that first lockdown, I was posting, like I say, designs on garments, and a lot of the garments that I wanted to design on, like coach jackets, t-shirts, whatever, I couldn't ever really find the garment cut that I wanted. Like you could find like a t-shirt, but you're like, I don't really want to design on that t-shirt, or I don't really like the shape of it, the cut. So I started making my own mockups, and I was getting loads of people like messaging me being like, oh, where did you find that mockup? And I was just like, I made it myself. And I look back and I laugh at it because it's just, they were like, oh, could you send it to me for free? And I was just like, absolutely not. It's just like, that's madness. Why would I send it to you for free? It's just like my working project file. I don't even know you.
That's right.
I was blown away by it. And and I had so many people just kept asking me. And I think I would never ask anyone that, but the fact that people were asking me that, I was just like, bloody hell. So
sure.
There is an opportunity here that people want that, because I think there's got to be more people that wouldn't feel obliged to ask that than there are that do feel obliged to just say, can you send that to me? So anyway, so I just thought, you know what, I'm going to make this available and see what happens. So I put the coach jacket up for, I did a couple of other ones first, and then I put the coach jacket mock-up up, which is the one I was getting asked about all the time, and people were buying it, and I was like, wow, this is just a mock-up. I couldn't believe they were buying it. And I was just like, fair enough. People want to buy it, they can buy it. And then, and I genuinely quite enjoy that. I was like I am a bit of a Photoshop geek as well. And I get a little bit too into like the textures and the layers and the lighting and stuff. So I was happily like making these mock-ups as good as I possibly could. And, and the people were liking them and enjoying them and getting good results from them, and that's what it's all about. And it was quite nice as well to actually share that, because I got a little bit protective before when people initially were asking for that. It was actually quite nice to share them once I did, because I was like, I was seeing the results that people were getting, and they were like, oh, thanks so much, the client loved it, where can I get the garment from now? And I'm like, over here, this is where you buy it from. So yeah, it was quite a good it was a nice little thing to start with.
Yeah, it's interesting, like, to see, because I mean, obviously at the start, when you weren't selling these mock-ups, you had people asking to, where can I get this? Where can I find it? When you weren't even promoting it, when you weren't even advertising it. And I suppose it's a good indicator to say that you're really onto something. And for me, just points out that you don't have to be like so overly salesy, in the way you promote things. Like, if you got something good, like, people will find out where to get it, And so, yeah, that's really interesting. So yeah, you had people asking, where can I find this? Where can I get these mock-ups? And then, so like, talk to me a bit more about that. Like, what were these mock-ups, and how could, like, say, some of these brands that were coming along, how could they use them?
So the idea is to make them as simple as possible to use, because some of the mock-ups that you can get are quite complicated, and they have all these various features which are fine, but they can be a little bit overwhelming. And a lot of people, like, if you're starting a brand, or you're like a band that you want to do some merchandise and you don't want to print everything and hope for the best, you've got like shitloads of garments, like 50 of them, and then you hopefully will sell them. There's no guarantee that you will sell them, so you could be stuck with all this merch, whereas these mock-ups allow you to simply get a design concept, drag and drop it onto your design. It looks so realistic as well. Like, all the print effects are all built in. You don't have to do anything. You just literally drag and drop. And people are always just like, oh, you've got it printed. You're like, no, it's just a mock-up. And and it just makes life so much easier for brands that want to test the water, rather than just throwing all the budget on a hope, that it will sell. So so then you can run like pre-orders for like a week or two, get all your orders together. If you've got like 20 orders, get those 20 orders printed. If you've got 50, great, go and get those printed. If you don't sell any at all, or you just sell like 3, just refund them and just say, look, we didn't get enough to secure the minimum order. So unfortunately, it's going to be a refund, or you can have a store credit for the next run that we do. Whatever you need to do, but at least you're not out of cash, Cash is king when you're trying to start something up and you're being, smart with your budgets.
It's true. Yeah. It reminds me, back in the day, like, I mean, this is probably going back a while ago now. I had a little brand. It was just for fun. I just wanted to see what I could do. But I just remember I'd be on Photoshop and just get that, like, the PNG, like, t-shirt image, and just like slap the logo on there. There's the mock-up. Oh man, I think back on that and I just laugh, and I wish I could. I mean, this was all before you had your mock-ups going, but man, I wish I had some of those. Yeah,
you should see some of the stuff I did when I was when I first had when I was at university. A few of my mates asked me to put some designs together for them and stuff, and I look back now and I cringe. I'm like, God, that is dreadful. And I was there, like it haunts you. You get like those Facebook reminders of what you said like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, and it's just like, you go onto there and you look, and there's like this gallery of these awful looking designs on these awful, just flat PDF vector sort of t-shirt shapes, and it's just like, you have no idea what the garment's gonna look like at all. And I'm like, new merch has dropped, what do you think? I'm like, oh. Like, if I saw that now, I'd just be like, oh, bless him. But everyone's got to start somewhere, and that's the thing. I love looking back at that, because it reminds you of how far you've come, and I think it's good to remind yourself as well, like because everyone's human, and sometimes you have like moments of doubt, and you're like, what am I doing? And you can feel a little bit like, I don't know, everyone's human, right? So you have your moments that are high, and you have your moments that are low, and it's good to remind yourself that every step, as long as every step is progressively better, then that's the main thing.
That's right. Zooming out, looking at the big picture, how far have we come? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
always interesting for me looking at that. Yeah. Oh,
I think it's good to remind yourself of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from my understanding, am I correct in saying that your journey with clothing in business started with these mock-ups? Is that correct, or were you doing something before then?
Yeah, essentially. So like I say, I posted a couple of designs, like I was doing it every day. So I was just throwing designs
Yeah.
together, and posting every day. It's quite hard, fast and aggressive in terms of turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a few designs I put together, and there was one in particular, and it was like this off limits thing. It was that name was inspired by the COVID thing, because we didn't really know what was going on, and it was like a lockdown edition. And the off limits thing is still on the feed on Instagram, like that initial coach jacket design.
Yeah.
But the off limits vibe came from, like, it's like we're all off limits. Like no one can touch each other, no one can speak to each other, no one can breathe next to each other. So that's where that concept came from. And people quite liked it, and they were like, oh, I love the font, love the, the name of it, love the vibe. It's almost irrelevant now, but but where it was born was that state, really, because I was at an airport when I designed that. I was literally just sat on my laptop, just about to get on a flight. And I was like, I need to make some design, and I was just like quite interested, looking around at everyone all freaking out and stuff. And it was weird. So so when we came back from that trip, so obviously, like, we got on the last flight back to the UK before lockdown kicked in. Yeah, so we got in, put our passports across and stuff, and this guy was like, where have you just come from? We're like, oh, we just come from Switzerland because we've gone on a ski trip. And he's just like, you lucky guys, you've literally just got back on the last flight. They've just closed the border. I was like, my God, this is madness. What is going on? And there's loads of people stranded out there as well in Geneva airport. It was crazy. And I had just the one kid at the time, but I had a son to get back to as well. And I was just like, I'm not getting stuck in the country for like 4 months, no chance. So we were very lucky, but mad times. Mad times.
Off limits. How relevant.
Yeah. So I've kind of I've played with like that as well. I've kind of carried that on as a little bit. I got some beanies that I'm selling still with that. And
cool as. Yeah,
I just quite like it. So it's almost like a little sub brand. It's become, in a way. So anyway, initially, your initial question of where it started. So I put that together as a design, and so people liked that one and they wanted to buy it, and they were asking where they could buy it. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to run this. So I got that printed out.
This is more than the mock-ups now. This is like a full product.
That was a mock-up to start with, and then I was like, because people had asked to buy it, they showed their interest. I was like, well, I'd love to make this. I'd love to make it a real tangible thing. So so I put it together, got it printed at a business few cities away or whatever. So it was all right. It was just, I think I just used Gildan, it was just like Gildan t-shirts, and the print was okay. Nothing special. There's nothing special about it, but I was like, put that together, and I got that out the door, and it was nice doing it. But logistically, it was painful, even though I was using Gildan and getting a screen print shop to put it together. It was a painful experience. So I was like, I'm not going to do that again for a while.
Can you go into that? Why was it painful?
It was just, so I wanted to do a pre-order for that because I didn't want to just throw cash at it. That was my whole reason for doing mock-ups and giving mock-ups to people, was so they didn't have to do that. So obviously I'm going to do the same thing myself. So I put these mock-ups together to test the water. And then when it came to actually producing it and came to collecting all the pre-orders, I didn't like just hammering the same thing and selling the same thing all the time. I like to be a little bit more organic in the process of sales. I don't like that salesy, buy this. I'm a bit more like, if you're interested, this is where you can get it from. Or like, if you like this, then this is, I'm putting this to print type of thing.
Yeah.
So but naturally I was just like, orders ending soon. Get your orders in in the next 3 days before this is gone type thing. Buy it now or it's gone. And I didn't necessarily like doing that sales part of it. That was a bit like a bit out of character for me. And then when I actually got them produced, they came back and I was like, yeah, they're okay, but they're not great, but they're fine.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, it's fine. So, but I knew that if I wanted to actually do this properly, then I'd one day have to do it myself, because I think
Yeah.
if you're a perfectionist and you just have a certain vision and a certain style and a certain delivery, sometimes you just have to do it yourself, because no one will ever believe in your brand or be as passionate about your brand as you are yourself. You can't ever expect anyone to, get that passionate about it, because it's your own thing.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. I've heard that like a few times on this podcast, and it seems to just be a common theme that kind of goes all the way through.
That's it. It's like
no,
when, like we've got like I say, I've got kids. And when we've been asked to look after our mates' kids and stuff, I'm just like, yeah, it's fine. We'll get them over. We'll look after them. But your kids, they can do no wrong in your eyes. You're just like, oh, this is okay. Someone else's kid, you're like, can't wait for them to go. And it's the same in business in a sense. It's just like, get this job in and out the door.
Yeah.
And I know that that's the case with print shops as well. Like for me, what I'm doing now that I'm printing everything in house. For me, I'm happy to spend as much time as I need to get the quality as high as it possibly can, as high as it possibly can be. Whereas other print shops, they're more like, we need to get a minimum of 500 out the door today, to hit our quota. We've got to get volume, where I'm all about quality over quantity.
Yeah. And can you go into that? So it's obviously progressed a bit from that. You go from mock-ups to then that first drop. You say you were just working with a print shop and you're working with screen printers, to now where you're doing things in house. So you've obviously got to the stage where you've invested money into it now at this point, from your initial just like zero investment or little investment. So like, what was there anything in between the point, like any major checkpoints in between your first drop and then to where you are today doing things in house?
Absolutely. And it was during the NFT bubble, when the whole NFT thing was kicking off in like January, February. It's like, what are NFTs? What are NFTs? And I was like, oh my God, I need to learn about NFTs. This is the new thing. And anyway, I started messing around with like 3D, getting into 3D software, and I was making basically the similar sort of stuff that I was doing on Instagram, but like trying to make some 3D versions of it, because I was like, well, this is the way to go. And I just didn't like it. I was just like, things take too long to render. It's a painfully slow process. And I was just, right. You either like it or you don't. And it's like, like I used to play music, but now I don't play music anymore or write music anymore. I prefer to listen to music, and I get so much more into it, and I'm happy just to listen to it. And like with 3D art, I love looking at it and love like seeing what people have made, but I don't want to make it. And I've come to that realization that I don't need to. So during that stage, I was like, okay, I'm getting into this NFT stuff or whatever. And then the whole environmental side of it started coming up, like surfacing a little bit, like the concerns about the environmental impact. And I was like, looking at this, I was like, oh, whoa, absolutely not. If this is the case and this is the damage it does to the environment, no way. I don't want to ruin the world,
absolutely,
for the sake of a JPEG. What? No chance. So, and I hope that comes around. I hope they sort that out. I know that they're doing their best to sort that out. But for me, it's just a little bit too aggressive on the environment right now. And I don't want to contribute to that right now. But you never know. Maybe in the future, if that gets sorted out. But so I lost a bit of love for working in 3D, because I just wasn't getting it. I just wasn't getting the buzz. And then the sustainable side of NFTs concerned me. And then, I was just like, why am I just want to get away from my desk. I want to actually make something that's in my hands. Like this thing on the screen, although it's 3D and it's spinning around and I feel like I can touch it and the textures look so realistic, it's not real. It's still on a screen. And I was keen to get away from the screen. So I was just like, I want to make some more merch. But the problem with getting companies to print it as well, like you just can't expect them to deliver that level that you want. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make it. Why not? And I've got the store ticking along in the background, so I know that that's like keeping things buoyant. So I was like, I'm just going to take a punt at this. I'm going to buy some screen printing stuff and give it a go, give it a shot. Why not? And I hadn't really ever done anything on YouTube either before. I'd done a few like tutorials on how to use the mockups, but nothing substantial. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give YouTube a run as well. I'm going to document this because I feel that there will be people that feel my pain. You know, they're going through the same process. They want to start a brand, but they just don't necessarily know where to start or don't have the confidence to, or they're worried about certain pitfalls. So I was like, I'm just going to share the process. And again, it comes back to like the mock-up side of things as well, because it's like, the mock-ups are there and the graphic packs and the fonts, they're there for people to use and get an inspiration from. So I was like, this is perfectly on brand for me to continue that inspiration, but evolve it to YouTube and actually making things rather than just digital products.
Sure.
So it was a no-brainer for me at the time.
Yeah. I suppose that makes a lot of sense. It's quite a natural... It's quite an organic continuation of processes, but
yeah, certainly.
Yeah, I'm really curious, James, because you've got you're sort of doing your design thing. You've got your mock-ups, which are very obviously targeted at clothing brands, because I mean, who else is using those clothing mock-ups? And then you have your own sort of clothing brand that's emerging. So who is the audience for your own your clothes? Because it's sort of like it's a bit interesting to me.
Yeah, and I think I feel the same. I would say that it is like designers still. Like, as a designer myself, I'm massively into typography. I'm massively into like certain things when it comes to design, like vector style or tech wear. I quite like tech wear because it's very type heavy, you know, very graphical. Whereas like, I don't know, like a picture of a skull with a knife through it, I'm not that bothered, you know, I don't, or like, you know, roses and stuff, don't really care for it. Whereas like something that's really heavily type based and vector based, I'm like, yeah, that's nice, that's my vibe. So I guess in terms of the audience, I haven't necessarily done like a user profile, you know, like I would if I was doing some branding exercises with a previous client.
Right.
I haven't necessarily done that. I've just kind of trusted in what I do on Instagram when I'm just designing things for fun. You know, I'm just like relying on that really, as a market and just kind of, again, it comes back to the thing I was mentioning earlier about having really, really good quality garments. And, you know, and like with the print as well, like I hope people like the print, but for me, like the garments that I'm getting, my God, like they are ridiculously premium. So I can say to people when I sell them to them, or when someone picks up some merch or some friends that have come and seen the stuff and they've actually like held the garments, they're like, mate, this is ridiculous. This is such a nice quality. And I said to people as well that, you know, that have, like friends at a barbecue or whatever, like, oh, what's going on with the business? What are you doing at the moment? I'm like, oh, I'm doing a bit of clothing and stuff at the moment. And they're like, oh yeah, interesting. And I say to them, I'm like, honestly, these hoodies though, and these shirts and long sleeves that I've got in, I will put my money on it that they are far better than anything you have in your cupboard. Like you'd be like, Jesus Christ, this is my number one garment now. Like the quality, like was important for me to get it as high as possible. And, you know, when I was like doing the Gildan stuff before, you know, it's just like, Gildan, there's nothing unique about that. There's nothing that you can really engrave yourself in someone's memory. You know, like I want another one of those. You know, like if someone's bought something from this latest collection, I'm hoping that they'll come back and they'll be like, I need another one of these shirts because nothing compares to it. You know, the quality, the comfort, the cut, it's just too good. So that's what I really wanted to get with the garments, is something that people would come back for, whether it was the design, but whatever the design is, the garment has to be consistently good.
Yeah. Just going back to something you said before, when I asked you about who you thought your audience was, I think it's very clear. It definitely comes through that your audience is designers, but like an interesting concept that I, you know, often think about with many streetwear brands is like they need to have like their niche, like their thing, their subculture, their lifestyle, you know, so that like people, like groups of people can come and see this brand and they can like identify with it. And so I think obviously it's been quite natural. Like clothing wasn't the first thing you were doing, but it came naturally with the sort of the design things and clothing mock-ups you were doing. But yeah, I think it's really great advice for like a lot of brands out there that don't already have that like that niche. Like you already had an audience, and like like you said, like as when you were first, putting some things out there to the world, your audience for that product was already there. They were already ready to purchase. And I think that's it's such a power move to be able to have that. And that comes with like just knowing sort of the interests and the hobbies and the niche that you're kind of cementing yourself into as a brand.
Yeah, and I think like designers as well, like people that either follow the account for, if they're designers or if they just like design, then hopefully, they are all driven by quality, and they like that quality, they like that finish, and it's all about the attention to detail, and it's always been the case with the brand as well. It's always attention to detail. So I think, naturally, like if the audience are into that, they appreciate quality, they appreciate detail, and they appreciate the time and effort and everything else that goes with it. I think, if they can resonate with that, then hopefully that, that runs through as the primary target. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like you speak about quality, everything about your brand is targeting for the experience to be as enjoyable as possible for the audience, because and understand, being a designer yourself, that they appreciate quality. They appreciate attention to detail. They appreciate something that lasts, because this is just the type of personalities that you get, and everything about the experience with your clothing that you put out to the world for the target audience that you cater that for is so absolutely your brand and so absolutely meant for them, that they can come to your brand, buy your clothing, and be like, yeah, absolutely, I'm going to wear this every day of the week if I can.
Yeah, and it's like, I've got some hoodies that I bought a few years back, and I still wear them. It's like my go-to, and I'd love to be able to do that, like deliver something that's a go-to for someone. That's the goal.
That's it. Yeah. Before you mentioned your YouTube channel and how you sort of documented the process, can you speak to me a bit about that and how that has even maybe like sort of what that looks like, and like for those who haven't seen the series that you're doing? Yeah.
So for me, I thought one thing I've always noticed, because I'm not the first person to do screen printing on YouTube. I'm not, or like a streetwear thing on YouTube.
Yeah.
What I've often seen is that it's always the finished glossy version of, like, oh, look at this, I've nailed this, and this is what you should do. And this is, if you want to be a printer, you got to do this. There's no one, or not, I'm sure there are, but I haven't seen anyone who's happily failing on the fly and just, being, authentically documenting the process and being like, oh no, this has gone wrong. And, and I don't care. I don't care. Everyone's human, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone's got to learn. And I've really enjoyed approaching it like that, just being completely transparent and showing people things that are going wrong. And I think, again, it just goes to show how doable it is, because I think I've done 10 episodes now. I've just started the new series as well. That's going to be dropping soon, the new series 2 of it. So I've done 10 episodes on it, and you can see such a progression from those 10 episodes, from start to finish. Even with the YouTube as well, like editing the YouTube videos, that's another thing I got to learn on the fly as well. I haven't necessarily cut videos or shot videos before. Getting the lighting right, getting the audio right, getting the camera positions, and because the first episode I was just filming it on my iPhone, and then I was like looking back, and I was dragging things out, I wasn't being punchy enough, and then now I'm like cutting it a lot better, or I like to think so anyway. I can see improvements myself. But learning how to do video and stuff, and it's just a whole beast as well. So I'm learning how to do video, learning how to do screen printing, learning about like garments and the right cuts. And so spinning a few plates of it, and it takes time as well. Jesus Christ, it takes time. Like Yeah, like you put like a 5-minute video together. I kind of figured it out actually. Someone was asking me like, how long does it take? And I think for every minute of the video is a day at the moment for me. So if I've got a 5-minute video, it's a 5-day turnaround, like in terms of editing, shooting, everything
that
involved.
sounds about right. And just for reference, like how many hours is that putting in a day?
Well, yeah. So some days I can get a little bit locked in on it. I can like get cracking, and start like, because I don't like to start too early. I like to get a few things done in the morning, like go and have like a workout or whatever, and get a coffee, walk the dog. Then I've like cleared my mind. I come to work, so I don't start work properly until like 10:30, and then I'll finish up at about 5 sometimes 4, sometimes earlier, but I don't really stop for lunch. I'll just grab something to eat. So I just keep going and going and going and going. And then I look at the time and I'm like, oh shit, I should probably go home and see my kids before they get to sleep. So, I don't ever really have like a set routine in terms of the time I spend on design or like doing video editing or anything. I just keep going until I come to a natural halt and I'm like, right, I think I'm done now. I'm overcooking this, or I'm going to go out this with fresh eyes tomorrow. So, or I got to get back and put the kids to bed, something like
that. Yeah. Well, that's for sure. It takes a lot of time. I mean, as a videographer and editing, quite often it's just, yeah, man. Trust me. I know.
So how long have you been going at it for then?
I've been making videos for 9 years now. And This started like, so not professionally for 9 years, but this started like back in the day. I'd make just like little movies with my neighborhood friends, and then just cool. Oh man, those were the days. Little movies. What sort of movies? Friends. Like, oh, just like we get the Nerf guns and we'd like run around. I was like, oh, that was so bad. I think one time. I mean, do you know Peanuts? Like Charlie Brown, and you don't do you not have that in London, in the UK?
Mate, I'm an old dude. Maybe, I don't know. I'm probably too old. Man. Look at me, I've got grey hair. I'm an old man.
Yeah, well, it's like this. It's just like this comic, right? And we just do like I remember I got this big book of Peanuts comics for my birthday one year, and what we'd do is we'd just like literally make a movie of the comic. So like each square was like a cut, and it's just a bit of fun. Cool. Yeah, that's kind of how it started. But,
you're following your passion, aren't you? That's it. You're doing something that you want to do, and yeah, and I genuinely enjoyed cutting the videos. It's a nice process. Yeah, and when you watch them back, you're like, oh yeah, it's this. I don't know. It's a good thing. I found it's a good thing to do or to have done, because I feel like I've put a pressure on myself to continue this. Like with the clothing, I'm like, I can't just do it one off and then I'm just lumbered with all this gear now. I've like invested in a few different variables to make sure that I keep going. So it's been good for that, I think, too.
Yeah. So because your audience is designers, and I suppose with the type of content you're putting out there on YouTube, I mean, the whole series is called, what is it, starting a streetwear brand? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So it's very much catered to like the type of people that are watching it are designers. So do you think that having that series has contributed to some of the success of your clothing? Some like the sales, do you think sales have come directly from there? People have watched the videos, learnt about your clothing, found out, oh, hey, I'm a designer, I have a streetwear brand, I also like this guy's clothes, I'll buy from that. Like, has anything like that occurred? Do you know?
Potentially. I don't know. There are some people that have placed some orders, and I recognize their names popping up from previous drops, because I did a drop with a really nice garment about 6 months ago, or maybe like 9 months back, and it's probably about 9 months ago actually. And the garment is the garment I'm using now. It's really good, but the print wasn't great. I was like stretching it and it was all cracking. Like they hadn't done it that well. And that was
this is before you were printing yourself.
Yeah, and that was one of the main reasons as well. I was just like, Jesus, like this, I've paid for this job to be done by a professional company. I'm not going to name any names, but like it's just like you expect so much better, right? And
Yeah,
and it's just
absolutely.
like curing the ink properly. Like it's like, guys, come on, cure the ink properly. What you just need to get that done. You need to make sure that that's good. And I've gone to town on that. I've like made sure I've got mine as solid as it can be, because I don't want that happening. No one complained about it, but I just know that like the previous ones just weren't as good as they possibly could be. And I was like, I just wanted it to be as good as it could be. I wasn't really happy just to like let it slide. That sort of shit bugs me.
Yeah.
So sorry, I kind of swerved from the initial question. What was the initial question? I swerved back about the previous stuff. I can't remember why.
Yeah, I think we were talking about your YouTube channel, whether you thought that if you could pinpoint whether you think any sales have come from that since it's targeting designers. Yeah.
Yeah. So so in terms of that, so I noticed some loyal people coming through that had ordered the previous one, and they, the fact that they'd come back and ordered again, it's very, it's good to know that they've come back and ordered again, even though I was like, I'm not as happy with that. But what I've given them now on this new drop, I know it's so much better. So hopefully they'll be like, wow, yeah, this is a notable improvement. And it's because I've done it all in-house and I've just quality checked it, so I'm super proud of what's going out. And in terms of who's actually buying stuff, it's hard to tell where they've come from. I don't necessarily have the data of tracking where they've come from, but I'd like to think that they have either watched the YouTube, or I know that it's interesting actually, because the YouTube stuff is probably more catered towards people that want to do it as well. They're interested
like
in
as in
doing
start
merch
their own
themselves.
brands.
Not necessarily a customer. They're more like, I want to do a brand too. So I don't necessarily expect them to buy anything.
Yeah.
If they do, that's great. But those guys are actually more interested in the defects. So I dropped like a little idea of doing like a defects range, and the idea being that I've printed loads of stuff that is just substandard. I don't want to sell it. It's like the print has slipped slightly, or like it's bled out a little bit. I'm like, I can't use that. I can't sell that, but I could discount it. So I was thinking of doing like a defects range. And the people that watch the series are far more interested in buying something that is like, and if anything, they're more interested in the ones that are really, really bad. Just like, I've got some prints that are just so tragic. And like some of the first ones that I did, and they're like, I want that one. I'm like, what? I'm like, you having a laugh? Why do you want that one? That's awful. And they're like, yeah, but it's the first one. I'm like, if you want it, you can have it. I'll have to go and dig it out of the bin, but yeah. And I got and just to practice the print technique, I printed on like loads of, because I didn't want to just keep hammering t-shirts and t-shirts and t-shirts. So I cut up a bed sheet into like little squares and printed on that. And people were asking about them getting those little things. I was like, yeah, you can have them for free if you want. So it's an interesting thing, but I need to be careful with that, because I don't necessarily want to release the defects, because that goes against everything I'm for, like I want to release quality. I don't know if it's a good idea. I teased it the other day and I was like, when you've got that gut feeling that this probably isn't a good idea to release like defects range, like stuff that's like a little bit not great. But it's not like tragic, but it's just not great. And it's just niggling away at me.
It could draw people away from the point.
I think, it's just niggling away at me that it's probably not the best thing to do. So, but it's the thing. I'm happy to be transparent about it. Happy to learn on the fly, and I'll document that in the process of doing the YouTube as well. I'll say that I thought about this, and I've actually, on reflection, thought that it's probably not a good thing to do. So I wouldn't advise it. I'll just give them to charity, and you know. If they get out and like a charity makes money from it, that's good enough for me. I'll happily take the loss on the garment. It's just annoying because they're really expensive. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't want to be ruining these, but it's all part of the process. But if I give them to charity, at least it's going to a good cause.
Yeah. You know what? I've just had a thought, and it like, I suppose, like a lot of brands have their like about us or about me or about, like they kind of talk about the brand and stuff. I just thought your series about starting a streetwear brand, for many people that come along say, hey, I like this guy's clothes, I want to learn some more. Like, who is it? Who's behind the brand? Like, how do they do it? I think it probably, your series, as much as a resource as for education for other brand owners, acts as that kind of about your brand for those that are actually intrigued or interested in buying. And and that's really interesting to me because like you've got a great resource there that's like building that loyalty because I mean, you know, if there's a story attached behind what you do that's really sharing the purpose and why what you're doing, and like you keep saying, keep using that word authenticity, that's what
Yeah,
builds those
that's
loyal
key.
customers. That's what builds those loyal customers. So yeah, as much as it is that educational resource, I judge it's also like one of the major things. I mean, I get you can't really pinpoint it, but look, I'd be surprised if it wasn't. You know, is it's there for
I
people
think,
also that come
yeah, and
along.
I think if you're not prepared to be authentic, you're just making your life so much harder. Like, why be a bullshitter? Just be yourself, and if it floats, it floats. But yeah, it's too much hard work. Like, if you want to, I don't know, pretend that you're some sort of something that you're not, that's only going to eat up your mental health. Just be yourself and accept who you are, accept what you're doing, be prepared to fail, and learn from it. That's the most important thing to me. And again, with that YouTube series, I just felt like it was just so much more, just such a better message to put out there in terms of, you know, like if someone's done like their own prints, or they're trying to do it themselves, or they want to do it on a bit of a budget, they're like a bit nervous about committing fully financially, whatever. Hopefully by watching some of the stuff and by watching me fail, they'll be like, that's fine. Hopefully they can learn from those mistakes that I'm making, and they won't make the same ones. But also they'll make their own mistakes, and hopefully they'll think, yeah, that's fine. So it's fine to fail. And I want to get that message across, you know, because I think it is an important one, because I know that I felt like that. I was just like, oh God, I'm looking at this. And again, it's like, is this the right message to be putting out there? When I was like failing and I was like printing stuff and it looked dreadful, I was like, oh my God, this is bad. You know, is this the right message to put out there? But I'm like, yeah, absolutely it is, because everyone's human. Everyone makes mistakes, but it's all about fixing the mistakes and making something as good as it can be. Nothing is just bang on from the first time. I mean, sometimes it is if it's a total fluke, but 9 times out of 10, if not 99.99 times out of 10, it's everyone has to go through a bit of a learning curve, you know? So it's a steep
If you
learning
can
curve.
even have 0.999 of a time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. No, but yeah, it's absolutely it's like acknowledging the flaws that like people will see anyway, even if you don't acknowledge them. It's acknowledge them that builds that trust with the customer. And you know, I mean you've got a whole business. I mean sort of, you know, it's you know, you got your business, but it's sort of like two businesses, I suppose, because you got your mock-ups and you got your clothing itself. And it's like people that, you know, watch the clothing videos and learn something from that, they'll buy your mock-ups and they appreciate the authenticity from there because they can relate with you, they can identify with you, and it feels so real. Like you're just a real person behind it all. And they can, like, you know, people can trust that. And people that are looking at buying your clothes as well, you know, I mean, they know you haven't got it all together. And because, I mean, no one has it all together. And for you to be so vulnerable in sort of sharing that experience when you could just say, man, I know exactly what I'm doing. Like, I know, you know, like they can also relate to that as well in like their own areas in design and that as well, I suppose,
No, that's
which
good
is
to
quite,
hear. And yeah, I appreciate that, because it's very much, again, you know, that authenticity and just trying to be more human. You know, that's always been my thing. It's just like, be more human. You know, when it was like with brands, you know, I was helping people build brands before. I was all about making things as human as possible so they can connect with humans. So and with the brand, like having the mock-ups and everything, like the digital side of it, and then now doing the clothing as well, it does, I'm still in two minds of whether I will separate them, but at the moment I'm keeping them together to kind of test the water with it. But yeah, it has crossed my mind whether I should separate them out a little bit, keep the digital side of the business going there, and then branch off and do the clothing stuff separately. It's still undecided, but in the meantime, I'm just going to keep it as it is, and then if I feel like it organically, you know, goes in its own direction,
yeah.
then I will facilitate that. But at the moment,
Yeah.
I don't feel the pressure to.
Yeah. Cool, James. Yeah. Yeah, like on that, like at the moment, it's all under the, your Instagram Studio Innate. I want to talk a bit about. Yeah, I mean, you spoke about how you had that whole journey posting daily on your Instagram, but maybe specifically with your clothing, how you've utilized your audience of 106,000 followers, and or before then, what's how you've kind of built it to 106,000, and it kind of, yeah, how you're using your audience, how you're using social media with your clothing brand.
Well, essentially, the YouTube thing, I didn't do it for this reason, but now I've been doing YouTube, I've got a big chunk. Like, that's the big mother beast of the content. Then with like now
Right.
Reels being like the Instagram front runner,
Yeah.
I've got short form content that I can slice out of that, which is standard practice. Everyone knows that that's a good
Sweet.
strategy. So I'm doing
Yeah.
that. I'm taking the short form content from there and chucking it into the Reels. And then just like with the Reels as well, like I know a lot of people hate them and they're like, oh, I'm forced into doing Reels, and everyone's a little bit more stubborn on that, which I understand, because
Yeah.
number one, it's out of most people's comfort zones to start doing video, or they're just like, well, I just want to do stills, and I get that. But for me, I was just like, well, if this is this is like a thing, I'm happy to explore this as like a new opportunity.
Absolutely.
To like, I don't mind the Reels, it's like, yeah, I do miss doing just static posts, but I kind of get why Instagram's doing it in a sense, with like having video as like a front runner, because I know that it's more entertaining. I think everyone does. Like if you're
Yeah.
the sort of guy, I know I certainly do it. Like I'll zoom in on, people's static images that they've posted, and I'll appreciate it. But
Yeah.
there is something about video that is more engaging. So it only does make sense to prioritize that, from Instagram's point of view. So so I've approached it with that, like having the big YouTube thing, slicing it up into short form content, and then and just doing that, really, just trying to make my life a little bit more easier, and the whole process a little bit smoother as well, really.
Absolutely.
And you can chuck that sort of stuff on TikTok as well. Like I'm not necessarily that active on TikTok, but I can easily just chuck what I've made as a reel on TikTok.
That's right.
Just because that's the thing. Like when Instagram and Facebook went down that day, remember that? It was just like you just never think that day is going to happen, and then it did.
Yeah.
And it went down for like, what was it, like a day or two? And it's like, just goes to show how vulnerable you are if you just rely on one
Oh
social
my
media
goodness.
network
Yeah.
for your advertising. So
Yeah.
so I was like, well, this makes no sense to just put all my eggs in Instagram's basket. I'm going to start doing YouTube. I'm going to start putting stuff on TikTok as well now. And even Behance, I need to sort of brush up on there. I haven't used that in years. And it's an interesting one as well, going back to like people demanding that static Instagram experience to come back, like just the images. There's huge opportunity for Pinterest to become that new social media platform for just
Yes.
stills. But it's like, why are they not doing that? They should be eating that opportunity up. That is a
Yeah.
massive opportunity for Pinterest right now, and they're just doing nothing about it. Like they could make that a really engaging social platform, and so could Behance as well for creatives, because creatives
Are
are
you on
screaming
Pinterest?
for it. Yeah, but I don't really use it. That's the thing. There's
Right.
nothing drawing me there to use it, because there's no social experience. There's no like there's no people on there that you can bounce back and have genuine like conversations with, or
That's
like
the thing. Hey.
exactly. So if Pinterest can bring in that audience that are happy to be social, rather than just go in there and treating it like a library, they can actually engage and make it a social platform.
Yeah.
I think that could see Pinterest shoot through the roof. Yeah, but you never know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Pinterest is such a big topic. Yeah, I want to go into that, but I thought it was so interesting what you said about not putting all the eggs in one basket, because like the thing is about e-commerce, fashion brands, is like, I mean, it's so easy to start a fashion brand today. Like comparatively to where you'd have to go, like if you wanted to start a business in the past, it'd be like, okay, we're gonna set up shop. This is where we're located. This is the address. And you got to pay for rent or whatever. Like you have a social media account nowadays, but like that's the thing. It's absolutely the foundation of these e-commerce streetwear brands now, and because without Instagram, without social media, they would be nothing. It's where 100% of the sales are coming from. It's where 100% of the audience is coming from. It's where 100% of the awareness is coming from. So that's absolutely the thing. Like, it needs to be spread out to, you know, Instagram and TikTok and wherever else.
Yeah, and if you want to build a brand, you've got to get that personality of the brand across. And I think that's what social media accounts are so good for, because it's an opportunity and a platform for you to broadcast the personality of your brand, the human side to it. And I feel like it's been a good thing as well. With doing YouTube and putting my face behind it, and like people have messaged as well saying it's nice to see you. Like, I followed the brand for a while, but never seen a human behind it. But now I can see you and get an idea of who you are and what you're all about, and like the want for quality. It kind of matches up, you know, and you know, personal brands are always, you know, I've always kind of looked at them like the whole debate of personal brand versus like some corporate thing that's faceless in a sense. So I think I think it can only do good to get yourself on YouTube, really.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, anyway.
And it proves well, just even from a convenience or a practical standpoint, if brands are wanting to spread content out across platforms, having that sort of that main long form content as a source for that. Yeah, and I think, I mean, you've got a pretty good idea of what your long form content is, and I think that's come quite naturally, just with you down the many different alleyways that you are with clothing and design and things. But I think, yeah, there's brands out there that struggle or maybe even fail to consider how they could utilize long form content like this, because I mean, in their heads it's like, you know, I mean, we're selling clothes, you know, it's not for designers. It might be like a skate brand or something. That's the subculture. Like, you know, where do you make long form content out of that? And I'm not going to document the process because, you know, I want it to be something that is actually catered for a skate audience. And, you know, I mean, do you have anything to speak on that?
Yeah, I would say that you need to dive in to the lifestyle and the culture of your brand. So if you are doing music, you know, document the music side of it and how that sort of would resonate with a music focused audience, whether that's going on tour, whether that's doing pop-ups at shows or festivals or whatever. Document the process of trying to get on that festival, trying to get on the bill, trying to get that shop there, how much it costs, how much whether it was worth it, whether it wasn't. There's loads of content. You can get people really pissed coming up to the store, film them. That's a reel, easy. You know, all this stuff, you know, just
that's a viral reel at that.
Exactly. You can do loads of stuff like that. And let's say it was something else, like something a bit more like urban hip hop type thing. Then yeah, you can go to like some like grimier open mic type nights and set up a thing there and, you know, document the backstage scene, you know, give it that grimy treatment with the video content. There's loads of things. I think it's all about harnessing the lifestyle and the culture of the brand and the audience you're trying to tap into, and and building some content from that. And that's essentially what I'm driven by with what I'm doing, because my audience, in a sense, on Instagram, and you know, it's all about like designers or, you know, people that may be inspired by the brand, people that want to get the products, people that want to start their brands, or, you know, and use the mockups or buy the digital assets and fonts. Those guys, essentially, I'm targeting them, or not intentionally targeting them like in an aggressive way, but, you know, it's a natural progression to put content together that facilitates their interest.
Absolutely. You know? I'm such a big believer and preacher of that, just like harnessing or understanding your target customers, understanding their lifestyle and their interests. And absolutely. And you mentioned earlier that it's not so much in your nature to be overly salesy and promotional, and it was a little bit uncomfortable when starting that clothing brands, you know, when you're like, you know, oh, we got some new products or whatever. But I think like it doesn't have to be like that, especially and only when you know who you're targeting and their interests and lifestyle, because it means you can go from a place of, hey, we're a skate brand, buy our latest collection, to, hey, we're a skate brand, here's some like cool stuff of like people doing kick flips and stuff. Like you love to see this, and here's like
immerse yourself in that culture.
Absolutely. And then it goes from like solely promotional content to then like creating entertainment, creating value, creating education. Like, here's a kickflip, here's how to do a kickflip, and like here's how we, you know, set up our pop-up at the skate park. Like how cool is that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Get those guys to wear it.
Yeah. So cool.
You know, get them wearing your stuff, like, you know, down the park and stuff, and you know, you've got yourself some content there. You've got yourself an influencer already. They're going to appeal to all their, you know, followers, whatever. There's loads of opportunities. Yeah, and I think that's it. Just being open-minded and dabbling in them, and just being like, oh, that could work, or this could work, or maybe I'll try that. You know, just being open-minded and not too like, oh, should I do this? Should I not? I've seen a couple of brands that have, you know, kind of started and not necessarily survived, because I guess they were just like expecting too much from just posting like a static visual and just hoping people would buy it. You know, yeah, their friends and family will probably buy it, but I guess there's no real story behind the brand that makes you want to support it, you know?
That's right. Yeah, because people latch on to a story. They need something to identify with.
Right, that's the brand. They're building a brand.
Exactly. One of the ideas that I've sort of latched onto recently is that, like, look, I'll use this. This is like a sort of a concept I sent out to my mailing list, this exact analogy. But like, you know how you have like a brewery, and they might start like some branded, you know, clothing that is advertising for the drink, right? And so the clothing is not the primary product, of course. We know it's the drink. It's just it's like a walking billboard for the drink. But I reckon it's the same for a clothing brand. Like, we think that the clothing is the primary product, but it's not. It's the primary product is the lifestyle. And the clothing, the branding is just advertising for that lifestyle. Because you think, you know, we don't buy a brand like Nike because, you know, like, because they're any better than anyone else in the market. You know, in fact, I mean, like you said, you've got some premium, you know, there's some like top quality clothing, but we will happily spend more on Nike's, you know, like mass production stuff, because we identify with the lifestyle that they're selling. With the, you know,
you want to be associated with it too. It's why people wear like band hoodies. They want you to know that they're in that subculture. Like someone who wears something that's quite out there, like a Slipknot hoodie or something, and you're like, they are wearing that because they want to be identified as that type of person. And same with like people that wear like, you know, Gucci and stuff. They want people to be like, oh, you're of a certain status. And all these sorts of things. Yeah, I find it fascinating. And I remember seeing a podcast.
So interesting.
A podcast a while back. What's his name? I can't remember the name of the guy, but it was Chris Do who was interviewing him. And and he was talking about like how, classic, good old Chris. And he was talking about, they were talking about like brands, and he was talking about like hotels. Like if you had like 3 hotels, like you had I don't know what your sort of budget hotels are in your, you know, in Australia or whatever, but we've got like Travelodge, Premier Inn, and Holiday and those types of things. Do you have those?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. You get I get the gist. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you switched all the signs and you said, right, you're staying in this one, you're staying in this one, you're staying in this one, no one would know that you'd switched the signs, because none of them have a brand, because they're all filtered by price. You only stay in them because they're the cheapest one, because they don't have a brand. Whereas if one of them that you walked into was like a really nice boutique, really cool ambient lighting, cocktails and stuff, just like good service, and you know the staff are dressed a certain way, and it gives a certain vibe, you'll be like, this isn't this budget hotel that you were talking about. You know, what's this? You know, it's out of context. But if they're like, yeah, and here's the bill for your experience, and it's like 5 times the price, you'll be like, yeah, I guess, yeah, because the vibe was right. You're happy to pay that because you're paying for that experience, you're paying for that feeling and everything, and that's the power of a brand.
Yeah. This is why I sort of, I'm with you. I sort of get where Instagram's going with just it's so focused, and everyone going is so focused on video, because I mean I'm a videographer, I'm a video guy, so of course, I mean, this is my bias, of course, but yeah, I think video can just display so much more in the story, in that can capture the lifestyle of a brand. And yeah, I think still images can do it, but only to some extent. Like, you need that long form content for people to see, so that they can become loyal to a brand, so that they can identify with it, so they can, so you can really get into the nitty gritty. And sometimes you just need like that, a few more frames in a second to be able to show, hey, like, we are the cocktail, we are the, chauffeur, this is the nice experience here.
Yeah. And again, I think, and I know there'll be people watching or listening that are probably a little bit more driven by posting static stuff on Instagram, like we were talking about earlier, versus reels. But I think at the same time, it's good to be pushed in at the deep end. And, if you want to stay on that platform, like, learning something new is good. I'm always happy to learn something new. I think sometimes shake-ups like this bring out the best. So instead of seeing it as an opportunity to whinge, like, see it as an opportunity to push yourself into something new, learn something new, stop getting complacent.
That's right. That's the thing when starting a clothing brand. It's just a lot of the time it's a one-man band to start, or 2 people, 2 friends, and they have to wear many hats. But it's not a bad thing, because they learn a lot of the things that are going to be really helpful in the later days once you're 7-8 years in. So absolutely, video is a great skill to have, because I mean I would know videographers are expensive, so if you can do it yourself, all the better. I'm an absolute believer in that.
No, absolutely, yeah, that's it. And it's all just about having fun with it. That's the main thing.
That's right. Yeah. Well, James, have you got any like final silver bullets for listeners? We're talking to streetwear brand owners. What do you got for them? The best of the best.
I would just say, I mean, some people just want to outsource it. And I guess if they are like a little bit too busy, maybe don't take it in-house. But I really see a lot of value in taking the whole process inside, in-house, and and just working on everything, and doing your own quality checks, and just not relying on another company to have as much passion over your brand as you do, and attention to detail. And I don't want to trash like print shops, because there are some great print shops. I've just been a little bit unlucky, I think, in terms of picking people that are maybe sort of motivated by quantity over quality when it comes to production, which I understand because they're running a business. And if that's fine and you're happy just to get stuff done as efficiently and cheaply as possible, then that probably will suit. But in terms of if you want to do something that's got that little notch higher, then yeah, sometimes I think it is good to take it in-house. And yeah, check out the YouTube to learn from some mistakes. And I think if I could say one thing about printing well, it doesn't necessarily matter so much about your technique with like the squeegee when you're printing. It's all about getting the screen set up properly, like in terms of its off contact and stuff. Like when you get that done, you can fix prints, which I didn't know. I was just like, once it's printed, it's printed. I was like, oh no, that's junk. Whereas I know now that I can fix a print. Like I can go over it again with a squeegee, and I can like correct it if I've done a little bit higher, like a bit more of an ink dump over there. I know I can fix that out now. So it's all about getting that off contact. Make your setup as good as it possibly can be, and the prints will be as good as they can be, and I'm sure I've still got lots to learn, but that was a big aha type moment for me when I like got that set up. I was like, right, this is so much easier now. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about the learning curve. Just get that set up as good as it can be.
That's some good advice. I'd say it probably wouldn't be like in terms of the print shops and those places, like quantity over quality, it wouldn't be that much different in Australia. I mean, they got to do what they got to do. So, but I think that's like great advice and really practical as well with the printing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you get like 20,000 orders, then yeah, maybe you should outsource that. Yeah, but like in terms of like doing something small, like a small little setup that most of us, you know, are doing. You know, if you're starting from humble beginnings, like most of us do it yourself. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing to do it yourself as well. Like, again, there's another story there for your brand that you can tell. So I think it can only be good. Yeah.
Yeah, people love the behind the scenes, and it'll only encourage loyalty as well.
Yeah, and it's a labor of love, but you know, the love is there for sure. Yeah, if you're like that passionate about what you do.
Yeah. Well, James, this has been so valuable. Like I've so thoroughly enjoyed this conversation today. I really appreciate you coming on the Street Cred podcast and being so open about how you're going and how things are running. For those who might want to buy a mock-up or check out your series, where can they find you?
So currently everything is at shop.studioinnate.com. If that changes in the future, we'll put up some redirects. But yeah, so that's where you can get stuff. Social media, that again across the board is /Studio Innate. So that's nice and easy to find. And yeah, I'd say YouTube, Instagram, and the store. That's where everything is most active. And feel free to drop a DM as well. Always happy to bounce back on those. I never ghost them. I always, reply to them. So yeah.
Yeah, great. And James posts a lot of great resources as well that are perfect for any listeners, those that are running brands. There's a lot of great stuff there. I noticed you posted. That's how I found you. In fact, I think it was through an Instagram reel on your series. So yeah, there's a lot of great stuff there. If you're not, for listeners that don't want to watch the full series, there's little snippets, like you said, long form, short form. That's the way to go. Hey.
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate being invited on this, and it was a pleasure chatting with you.
No worries. Maybe we'll have you on again soon, sometime in the future, maybe a little bit down the line when things have progressed. Who knows?
No, it sounds good. It sounds good. Yeah, it'd be good to reflect and see where things have moved to. Absolutely.
Thanks very much, James.
My pleasure, mate. Take it easy.